and welcome to Night Clerk Radio, episode 50, where we are covering Neil Cicierega and Plunderphonics. This is going to be a fun episode because I'm probably going to say Cicierega differently every time and may just eventually detract into like Neil C.
Yeah, I also had to look up how to pronounce his name, Cicierega. So that thanks random website that had the first hit for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. We love you, Neil. Please don't get mad at us. We just, yeah.
I mean, I sympathize. I have a bullshit last name too.
Yeah.
So I get it. I mean,
people misspell my last name too, like all the time. And
really, they get paid
because of they spell it Pey. Like I have to, okay, because of fucking Peyton's
like
Place.
Pay
wet, yes, or Peyton's Place if they're older. Exactly.
Yeah, but that's it today. We're talking about Neil C. I've already done it. So just a quick background, I guess, because he's one of those people who has done so much more than I think of. Mm-hmm. Like we're going to talk mostly today, of course, in the context of Plunderphonics about his mouth quadrilogy of albums, if you can call it that. But do you associate him with like all the other stuff he's done? For those that don't know, he did like pioneering early internet flash art.
Mm-hmm. And imitations.
Yeah. That whole early style of flash art, like Newgrounds shit. Did puppets. More music adjacent was Lemon Demon, who I did know and liked because I was always struck by the album cover that was just the giant Eddie Murphy head being transported on the highway.
Yeah, Neil Cicierega, I've actually been aware of ever since Animutations. Actually, the thing that comes to mind aside from these albums now are the Windows 95 tips, which are a series of like pixel art that looks like Windows 95 tooltips, but they're horrific.
Okay.
Yeah, like, did you know under your skin lies your flesh? You can remove it now. Click here to
demonic clippy.
Yeah, it's called like Windows95tips.com. Windows is searching for your skin. To locate the skin yourself, click browse.
Jeez.
Who have you told about Windows 95? No one.
No one.
Yeah.
I kind of forgotten about that.
Yeah. But I mean, for me, obviously, like weird internet horror stuff burns in my mind. But yeah, Neil is like, because of the Animutations and some of the other projects he's done, he's kind of like set the tone for a lot of what internet humor. I don't think without Animutations we necessarily have like the early 2010s, monkey cheese, random bacon, unicorn stuff. Like Neil's one of those people sort of like absurdism and surrealism. That's what's funny on the internet. And people followed suit. So yeah, he's extremely influential, but yeah, he's not like exactly a household name.
2000s, no one really expected like internet Dadaism to take off.
Yeah.
Like, but hey, here we are now where it's doesn't feel that surreal anymore.
Yeah, this just gets me to normal at this point. I need some surrealism just to feel normal. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, these albums are amazing. And I wasn't aware of them until like the second album, but
the second and third, because like the first two came out together. So I guess just to give a quick background, we're talking about the Mouth quadrilogy. They're mashup albums, 4 ones. The mouth in the title comes from Smash Mouth because I also think he really launched like All Star as a meme song.
Yes.
Because the first one, Mouth Sounds, is like All Star blasted with other stuff. And then Mouth Silence, clever title, has almost no All Star in it. Get it? You get it? But so it's just like the first one is straight up just like, I'm going to mash All Star with everything. Like here's All Star and Float On. Like here's All Star and Imagine. Here's All Star and whatever. Smooth was like one of them. Santana. Yeah, those both came out in 2014. And then the one that I think really blew up is the third one, which was Mouth Moods in 2017, because that had like Bustin' on it, which became a huge thing. Like there's like a music video version of it and everything on his channel.
Yeah, millions of views. Yeah.
It's also easily his best one, in my opinion. And then the fourth one, Mouth Dreams, came out like 2 years ago. Yeah. Late 2020.
When we were thinking of this episode, now this is what I call Plunderphonics.
Yeah.
Because, when we were researching our Plunderphonics stuff, it seemed like a lot of the people, the artists we were looking at were like, the term came about in the 80s, and, the artists that sort of pioneered the idea of it, Negative Land, etc., were active in the 80s and 90s. And then, so a lot of times when you look at Plunderphonics, you think of it as like a historical thing. Like it happened in the 80s and 90s and doesn't really happen now, except outside of really niche stuff, i.e. Vaporwave. But then Neil comes in and creates this stuff using the idea of Plunderphonics and really, I don't say ramping it up, but like Negative Land stuff is interesting, but like it's now far enough removed from a lot of people's listening, like musical vocabulary, that it's kind of weird and they aren't going to necessarily understand it as like people in the 80s did. But like the Mouth albums are like, because they're built out of so much top 40 music that even if you don't like it, you're aware of it because it's so prevalent in pop culture. Neil's work, it like works on a level that like I think is what Plunderphonics was ideally meant to do, which is to play with our vocabulary of music and like so really great stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think like the primary point of Plunderphonics, going back to the original essay that coined the term, I think was to highlight like some of the absurdity of pop, which Vaporwave does in its own way, but more like Vaporwave's like the absurdity of the memory of pop, whereas this is like more playing with the music itself and much more in that classic sense of almost rendering things into new songs. But the mashup in general, it's something else beyond just a mashup, because like a lot of mashups are just kind of to get attention. They're like, oh, these two songs have the same BPM and I put them over each other in Audacity and spit it out. And like he, much like say Girl Talk, which is a more serious version of this, is much more about like deconstructing every little element and taking lots of these little building blocks of pop songs and making like new ones. So especially in Mouth Moods, where like he really did the best job of this. There's so many like just little excerpts cut out of things all pieced together to kind of make something absurd and ridiculous. And that's what's more interesting to me, like that total reconstruction of music, like truly music as an instrument, not just here's two songs on top of each other.
Yeah. It's all about juxtaposition. Like that's his thing. Like, yeah, as one example, what Neil does is juxtaposition, and that's like sort of like the art of Plunderphonics. In a nutshell is, putting two similar or different like pieces of sound together to create an entirely new sound. And so let's take a listen to track 14, Time, from Mouth Moods. Pick yourself off the ground, I said, young man, 'cause you're in a new town. There's no need to be unhappy, young man. There's a place you can go, I said, young man. When you're short on your dough, you can stay there. And I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. They have everything for young men to enjoy. You can hang out with all the boys. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. If you're familiar, that is the Inception theme, a very serious piece of majestic cinematic music with the vocals of YMCA and a fun gay pop song and like and like
party anthem.
Party anthem. And like that's what Neil loves to do is it is this sense of play, a sense of like joyful absurdity. And you find this over and over again. And it ranges from just silly to scatological to innuendo. Bustin' is all about the scene in Ghostbusters where
the ghost sex scene.
The ghost sex scene, yeah. And just chopping up the lyrics in just a way to make it, hey, bustin' makes me feel good. So
that was definitely the most striking scene when I watched Ghostbusters, like as an aware teenager. I definitely saw it when I was like a kid, and I was like, aha, ghost lady. And I saw it in middle school, and I was like, oh, So now that it lives as a meme song is good.
Yeah.
But I do think the juxtaposition is the big thing. The other form of juxtaposition tends to be, and I was thinking about this earlier today, is like an of the era or newer pop song with some classical rock or like some piece of like revered music culture. I think that's, I don't know. I don't want to project too much on to Neil and his views, but Girl Talk does the same thing where like, it's typically like a classic rock instrumental and like modern hip hop lyrics is like a very common thing that he'll put together.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just because it's musically interesting to them that they go together so well, but it also feels like it's a statement of like pop has always been the same and like no generation of music is immune to this, because you see that a lot where like if I look at the music video of some random 90s song on YouTube, there's always comments of like people probably in their 40s or 50s, Gen Xers like, bro, I wish the 90s never ended. This was real music.
Yeah.
Whatever. And you see the same shit for the 70s. If you watch something from the 70s, you see the same shit even for like 10 years ago. Like, oh man, this was like real music and pop now is trash. And like, I think a lot of the best mashup puts that together and be like, no, see, it was all just kind of forgettable trash. And it's just the sieve of time.
Yeah.
That makes anything older seem even remotely relevant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, you can't be a slave to whatever generation of music you were born into.
Yeah. I think a really good mashup artist has a very good understanding of the history of pop music, at least. And they understand like all this has happened before. There's nothing new under the sun. And this has all happened before. And like the idea, the old musical grognard, I don't know what you would call them, just those guys. Like, yeah, things were better in my day. And like
music stopped with Skinnerd.
Now, sort of as a tangential anecdote, I was recently watching this documentary series on LuLaRoe, which is this multi-level marketing company that sells leggings, embroiled in many lawsuits, basically a pyramid scheme, although they deny it. And they get this guy, and it's basically run by this Mormon family, and all their kids, the husband and wife founded the company. It became incredibly successful. They hired all their kids as corporate officers, no matter what their qualifications were. And they got this one guy who was like a theater kid. One of their kids was like a theater major or whatever. And he's very outgoing, and he's like hired as their events director. And he's like, well, I have all this money now. And like, we're trying to reach all these women in their 30s and 40s. So I'm like, well, we need to, when we do an event, we need to like hit them in their sophomore year. We need to get the music that was like when they were in high school. We book those bands or those celebrities who they remember as teenagers, then they'll be hooked on our product. They'll be hooked on LuLaRoe. And so like they hired Mario Lopez as a celebrity for some event that they're doing, and they get the boy bands from the 90s to do their shows, so on and so forth. And so it's like, most people forget music after their high school. Like that's when music was good. And so to bring it back to this, it's like mashup artists like, no, it's always been the same, man. Like the people who make music have always like, music's got a formula and we know it. We're just going to change it enough so it looks different to what your parents listen to. And that's all we have to do.
And there are, of course, like unexpected breakthroughs of like earnest creativity, like grunge or something.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Coming out of the late 80s. But like, and broadly, it just gets subsumed into to some advertising machine. Keeping with this tangent, I think that's like the other half of that obsession with not just that you don't experience new music, but I think it's like a real uncomfortable thing to realize you're being aged out of like the zeitgeist.
Oh yeah.
I noticed that with my parents a lot of like, oh, we don't know who's on we don't know anybody on SNL anymore. We don't know anybody on the Super Bowl commercials, a halftime show anymore.
Yeah. Like you could bring up that Simpsons quote about, I used to be with it and then it changed and now and it'll happen to you. But like if you told that to a Zoomer, like they wouldn't know what that is. Like they wouldn't know the Simpsons quote unless they saw it in a meme. Like the people, like Zoomers only know Simpsons through memes now. Like they know the steamed ham scene and probably that's it. Like or shit like that.
Then I wonder how much auxiliary media they know. I don't know. I mean, kids probably know more, but like, steamed ham, but it's Twin Peaks. Fucking don't know what Twin Peaks is.
Yeah, they know. Well, they know Twin Peaks through memes now. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying.
It's like, there's so much shit. Like, I only knew Hitchcock and like a lot of classic films and stuff like through references in The Simpsons, like when I was growing up. So like, I understood like that they were referring to something else. And so I got the gist of it, but yeah. And that brings up another thing is like, these albums don't just sample music. They sample like, there's one song about Pokemon that quotes a lot of news stories about Pokemon and like evangelical preacher preaching against Pokemon. And some of my favorite ones are like where he takes this audio ephemera and mixes it into the music, like bits that you would recognize but don't really think about. So like, what's the one with like all the Alanis Morissette songs and then like all the outro?
I know which one you're talking about, but I'm blanking on the name.
I think it's Alanis and Mouth Sounds.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Do you want to add that in as a sample?
Yeah, let's play a little bit of it for the people.
Speak her name. Does she know how you told me you'd hold me until you died? Till you died, but you're still alive, and I'm here to remind you of the mess you left when you were away. It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear that you gave to me.
You mentioned like how your favorite album is Mouth Moods, and I see in your notes that you are not a fan of Mouth Dreams.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It just felt like I may need to listen to it a bit more, but like it just didn't grab me. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's because it was the middle of like 2020, like mid-pandemic shit.
Fair.
It just felt like I don't know. Like I just felt like I was past the joke.
Okay.
I don't know. It was very weird, and I should revisit it.
Yeah.
Because saying it's my least favorite, it doesn't mean that I think it's bad, but it just didn't grab me in the same way.
Yeah. You see, like for me, that's one of the more memorable albums in because when I think of it like in particular, there's two songs on there that I like love. One is the opening, which is playing with a .com 1999 era commercial of Yahoo. And it's just this guy yodeling Yahoo. And I was like, yeah, I remember that. And Neil plays with it and adds this sort of symphonic music bed under it. And it like making it sound majestic or something. And it's very ridiculous. And then there's the Baby Back Ribs, which was a commercial jingle for Chili's, singing about baby back ribs
I did like that one.
Then mixing that with the Beautiful People from Marilyn Manson, The Light Sleeps Tonight, Everyone Wants to Rule the World. Like there's just so much layering going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I should re-listen to it because that one also had the one that was like Closer and Fireflies, which is like kind of like two opposite songs. Yeah. There's some good stuff on there.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just don't know why it didn't stick with me as much.
But, obviously Mouth Moods had Bustin' and like a lot of amazing stuff. Like,
oh, yeah. Mouth Moods has all my favorites, like Annoyed Grunt, which is like the Home Improvement theme with like Tim Allen interviews and grunts, and then just songs that have grunts in them. So like Korn and Disturbed and stuff.
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
So looking around for this, I read some reviews of some of the albums other people put about this, and I found this really great quote from one of the reviews of Mouth Dreams, talking about, it sort of breaks down like the types of mashups that Cicierega does. So this is from a review of Mouth Dreams by Samuel Zucca for Red Brick, and his tracks come in roughly three forms, each of them creating new experience out of something familiar. There's the fusion of two tracks with the vocal part from one placed neatly onto the instrumental for another. Then there are the lyrical manipulation tracks, usually only mashing up one track to create a funny or absurd alternate lyrics, like Busting. And then there's what I would call the smorgasbord track, where Cicierega plays around with several tracks, creating a chorus of voices and jingles. I think there's probably a little more than that, but like I think that those are kind of like his basic techniques. Yeah. I guess we'll have a link in the show notes to that review.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that because I think, one thing I think it does get talked about, but also at the same time needs to always be emphasized when discussing these albums is that like, they're legit really good and catchy. Like they're not just absurd or like clever pop commentary, like just on their own. Like if we were creatures that were not capable of like that type of subtext, I still think these albums would fucking rule.
Yeah.
Like just from a pure like enjoyment factor.
Yeah. They're fun to listen to. Yeah.
They're fun to listen to. They're well produced. They're really clever. Like all the other stuff is just, I don't know, like cherry, like malt, like a pile of cherries on top. But like, it wouldn't work if the core of it was not so well done.
Yeah. Like there's this weird sensation of like, this is familiar. I know this. And then you're like, wait a minute. This seems, it's a little different. And there's like, no, this isn't like, no, I've never listened to this before, but yet it sounds like something I've listened to before because I recognize the individual components. What the fuck is going on? It's kind of this like, you're hallucinating a memory of listening to this before. Like you're manufacturing your own illusion in your mind. At least for me, like having like the vocals of the B-52's Love Shack with the Psycho theme, Bernard Herrmann's Psycho theme. I was like, this is a very menacing love shack. I feel like I'm going to get murdered in this shack, but it's still delightful to listen to. I don't know why. Or the exact opposite, which is like the vocals of Nine Inch Nails Closer with the instrumental of Love Roller Coaster. So
yeah, he puts Closer in a lot. I think that's one of the Muse songs.
It's fun music to listen to just on its own. And you mentioned Girl Talk. It's very similar to Girl Talk in that way of just being fun and ear candy / earworms, whatever you want to call it, that are occasionally infuriating, but mostly like, that's cool. I like that. That's fun. So yeah.
Girl Talk also has the same quality of being really well produced, obviously, like made by someone who really knows their way around music and music production. And it's interesting because I was thinking about them both. I sort of already, I guess, delivered the bulk of my connection between them in terms of how they approach mashups. But it is interesting that they're like the comedy and drama side of roughly the same commentary.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because Girl Talk does the same stuff, but is obviously not so, I don't think it's so intent on being absurdist and memey. And I think that's because Cicierega's stuff has that extra little bit of like Home Alone samples or like Blockbuster ad samples or slightly more ridiculous.
Yeah. It's kind of almost like
song connections,
like a little, like almost a little signal wavy in terms of like the Blockbuster commercial stuff. Like it's really fun because he leaves in the static. He doesn't clean it up or anything. And yeah.
No, I think, signal wavy. Sure. I don't think that's like his intent.
No,
obviously,
no.
It's just, I think both albums have that like great cluttered sensation of experiencing like the modern media landscape.
Yeah. I think that's actually a good way. It's very, in that sense, like hauntological in terms of like we are surrounded and overwhelmed by pop culture. And this is the way we experience it, as just like not as like one concrete thing, but everything bleeds into everything else, like our memories are hazy and did I listen to this pop song because I bought the CD and I listened to it, or is it just played over the soundtrack of a movie or a TV show, or just at a mall somewhere? Like how did I actually experience this music before? And your brain is just mush at this point,
And I think that's probably why Girl Talk, in addition to just how it's constructed, comes across as more serious to me. Like, first of all, I don't think the lyrics and the music are trying to make like the same juxtaposition type connection. I think there are things that more just sound good over each other to him. But also like Neil's stuff is like self-contained songs. It's like a 2 to 4 minute track. And there is an idea, like these are two songs we specifically put together because they're funny.
Or it's interesting to put them together. Like,
yeah, in some sense it's absurdist or funny or interesting or whatever, but they're still self-contained tracks. And I think Girl Talk is not really like the album has tracks, but like All Day was just released as an hour and 10 minute or whatever track.
And like
it was just one track.
Yeah. And Girl Talk was trying to get people to dance, to get people like he is Girl Talk is a DJ, and that is, he wants you to fucking party and get down and have a good time. And like, that is the primary goal of his music more than anything else. And Neil's not necessarily doing that. He is like re-listening to all these albums, like Space Monkey Mafia, which I believe, Space Monkey Mafia is in the Mouth Silence, and it's the end of the world as we know it, and we didn't start the fire, sped up so they sound like chipmunks, and they're played over each other. And I hadn't really considered those two songs basically being the same, of just a litany of references and like just kind of the sensation of being overwhelmed by the news and everything that's happening in the world. But putting them together, it kind of amplifies the effect that each song was trying to do. It's like everything happens so much and I don't understand it. And yeah, that's not exactly a party song. That's a it's not a distressing song. It's just kind of like, hey, everything's overwhelming. And yeah, I'm still happy, you know, I guess.
Yeah, just that stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Which leads me to think about, like, if there were to be a fifth one, which I don't know. I mean, they come out every couple of years, so we're still within the regime where one could come out next year or something. What would I want it to be? And I was thinking about, like, what are modern music trends I hate that I would love to be paired with some sort of absurdist music comedy?
Yeah.
And it got me thinking about making fun of the slow piano ballad versions of every song that gets made for commercials and trailers.
Yeah.
And I just had this idea of, like, if I could commission old Neil C to do something for me, it would be something with like those instrumentals and then the original vocals.
I like that.
Them.
Yeah. I love, the cinematic, ridiculous, over the top cover of pop culture songs.
The 40 BPM piano, like just really, there's really drawn out languid.
Yeah. There's an article I read last year about that phenomenon, and it is a thing. Hollywood has these specialized companies that just cut trailers, and they found out, oh, this one did really well when we use this slowed down pop ballad thing. What was the one album? How cover songs conquered movie trailers, from the New Yorker. Oh, it was the Social Network.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, it was a 2001 live recording of the song Creep by a 200-member girls choir from Belgium. Yeah, very somber. Yeah, imagine a choral version of Creep sung by 200 girls. So very dramatic, very over the top.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So that would be a really interesting way to do. You know what I was thinking, though, for the next Mouth album would be, the first thing I would put in would be songs that are covered that are free to use on YouTube. The songs that the music, pieces of music that you hear in every fucking YouTube video now. And like, and also like pop,
like the little royalty free jingles.
Yeah, the royalty free jingles. Like, you know, those like, oh, here's the like Kevin MacLeod music, you know.
Yeah, my quirky ukulele.
Quirky ukulele. Also things like Baby Shark. Yeah. So like those kind of pieces of music that we've heard a million times because of fucking YouTube. Like the intros, the little swooshes from Netflix and every other streaming site that has their own little intro. Yeah, that would be my thing, would be to look at the most overused pieces of sound from the last 10 years. Because I think he's covered pop music. I mean, there's obviously more, there's always more pop music to mash up.
Yeah, but he has been reusing a lot of the same songs. So
Smash Mouth, Closer.
Yeah, Closer. One of the things that really enabled this type of cover to be done easily is that through Rock Band is the reason that a lot of the stuff gets used is if it gets released as a song in Rock Band, then you can extract the independent tracks because that you can't.
Yeah.
Like you can do it like through filter passing and stuff in like a DAW, but it's very hard to do cleanly. But when Rock Band became a thing, you could rip out versions of those songs and it would have a separate drum stem, a separate guitar stem, a separate bass stem, a separate vocal stem.
Yeah.
So it made it very easy to do this. So I think that's also one of the reasons that some of the songs he uses are ones that you can get this easy multi-instrumentation.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because, yeah, for a mashup artist, you would need that.
Right. It makes it easier to do something more than just putting two songs together.
Yeah. No, for sure. I had not even considered, the technical aspect of it. this is sort of like a prime example of like why copyright affects culture, because before copyright was like, you know, a lot of people don't understand that copyright was not always a thing. Like copyright has only existed like maybe the last 150 years ish. And even then it wasn't that strong until the 20th century because of Disney. So for the vast majority of human civilization and culture, you know, people could just use whatever they wanted to. So that's why there's so many stories about the Greek myths and like the Bible and like people like Paradise Lost. If the Bible had been copyrighted, there would not be Paradise Lost. There would not be so many other things. People were mashing up and creating these kind of things throughout most of just history. And then like once copyright law became the law of the land and it became dangerous to do this, it wasn't just like necessarily like I would get sued. It would just be like I could not make a living doing this. I literally cannot afford to spend my time as an artist to make a mashup, because then I would not make any money and I would be, you know, starving. And so to see Neil fortunately was able to do this, able to take these risks and release this amazing work. Yeah. So copyright law has an effect on culture. And imagine how many more Mouth albums we're missing because we have such restrictive copyright law.
Yeah. All these things matter.
Yeah. So yeah, they're great albums. They're all free to listen to. You can just download them from Neil's website. They're up on YouTube as well. There's a great one that has all 4 albums up with like lists of the samples as they come up. So if you want to like listen to a particular song, you can then like, although for some reason the person just says whenever Smash Mouth is used, they say unknown, which is I think kind of funny. Before we go though, if you had to name a single favorite song.
Oh, a single track.
A single track. I mean, Busting is too easy, so I'm just going to say the Baby Back Ribs because it's just so, I don't know. It's the first one that pops in my mind. Like when I think of these albums, because it's just so earwormy. Baby back, baby back, baby back. Beautiful people. The beautiful. Yeah, it works on so many levels.
Yeah, it's going to be something off Moods. That previous Annoyed Grunt is one I love just because it's so ridiculous. Track 2, I love Floor Corn, which is Bodies by Drowning Pool. You know, let the bodies hit the floor. But put against the old timey instrumental Popcorn, which is like a ridiculous song. It's such like a non-song. Yeah. So having those two ridiculous things together, I always like that track. Probably one of those, or Dear Dinosaur, which is Dear Prudence and Walk the Dinosaur together. Yeah, it'd probably be something almost a random roll off Mouth Moods would probably be my bet, but definitely one of those. Yeah.
Fair enough.
But whatever you do listen to, be careful, because if you like it, it will replace the version of the original song in your brain.
Oh God, I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, it will.
It will. Thanks so much for listening. This was another episode that was a topic I didn't think we'd ever get to do, but I love the music and I love Plunderphonics, so it made perfect sense. But next episode, we're going to have a little bit of fun. It's going to be mid-March. It's time for some spring cleaning. So we're going to be doing an episode we're calling Discord Spring Cleaning. We have a Discord community through our Patreon that people, we have a few channels where people post suggestions for random vaporwave music, dark ambient, whatever they want to share. So I'm a little lax on listening to these recommendations, even though I very much want to, because I care about the music that people send to me to listen to. I convinced Ross to dedicate a whole episode to listening to that stuff and talking about it. And hopefully there'll be some gems in there. If you want to get in on that, you can join our Patreon at Nightclerk Radio at patreon.com. connect your Discord account and join in, be part of the fun. You can read all the links Ross posts that he's very proud of.
They're very good posts.
They're good posts, Ross. I'm sorry. I shouldn't give you such a hard time. But otherwise, if you want to connect with us, we're Night Clerk Radio, basically anywhere. Night Clerk Radio at Twitter, website, nightclerkradio.com, Facebook and Instagram occasionally. You can also contact us individually. Ross is at Ross Payton on Twitter. I am at Burke McBurkinson. Wherever you do choose to listen to Night Clerk Radio, just take a moment to engage with its algorithm. I'd like to extract some value from you and have you rate, review, tell friends, tell enemies, tell frenemies. Just get everybody listening. Mm-hmm. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.